My name is David Healy, and I am a senior technical specialist with the Dynamics team here at Microsoft. And I want to spend the next 30 to 40 minutes talking to you about our new solution in the market, our very own contact center. Let's talk about some of the challenges that are facing contact center owners or service center owners out there. And these will look familiar. You know, they've been around for a long time. That lack of effective self-service that delivers personalized and contextual experiences. Those experiences are often disconnected as you move from one channel to the next, whether it's SMS or chat or voice or email. It can be difficult to connect those together and form a continuous, cohesive journey. And finally, long wait times and having to repeat yourself over and over as you traverse channels is also an issue. You know, these aren't new. They've been around for a little while. And I think the reason that they continue to persist is because the complexity of contact centers have increased. The demands of customers have increased. And it's just difficult to keep up with old legacy systems. And the impacts are real. We see a less than 45% self-service deflection, right? We can do a lot better. We should be able to see best in class around 60 or 70% even in terms of self-service deflection. We see the attrition rate in contact centers up to 45%. You know, maintaining and training great staff is integral to providing great experiences for your customers. That employee sat is very closely linked to the customer sat. And if they're forced to use systems that aren't connected and spend most of their times dealing with these systems as opposed to dealing with customers, they'll go and find somewhere else where they can have that kind of experience. And finally, it's not just about metrics like that. We have a real dollar value that's been estimated as the cost of having poor service globally, and that's $3.7 trillion. Here's really the reason that all those problems exist. You know, for larger contact centers or even medium-sized contact centers, we see that over time, different technologies have been brought in to deal with different channels. So whether you bring in a system for live chat, like a live person, or you bring in social, like Sprinkler, you have different email systems and SMS systems, and you may have a Genesis for voice. But because these are different vendors, they're not connected natively. And so you have to stitch these together either through manual or integration efforts, right? That swivel chair is still one of the most popular forms of integration out there when it comes to contact center. They have multiple tools, agents, and multiple inboxes. If you are looking at blended agents who are switching between potentially digital and voice channels, they're going to have completely different UIs for the most part, which require even more training and more enablement to get them up to speed where they can focus on the customer. They very frequently won't have that complete view. If they need to know all the different interactions, if I emailed in one day, then chatted the next, then called the next, I expect them to know that and to be able to see that and understand what they were about and continue that journey. It's very tricky, and a lot of it is put upon the agent, and that's what causes the stress and the lowered employee sat. From a supervisor perspective, it's also very difficult to have a visibility over all of these channels. So, you know, what's the adherence looking like across all these different channels, for example? Is the utilization rate where I'm looking to have it? Very difficult to do this if you don't have a consolidated view across all these channels. And finally, knowledge authors also have challenges. So how do they make knowledge available in the flow of work when it's needed? Right? That's very challenging. And very frequently, knowledge will sit in a number of the different systems you already have, as well as other systems like a SharePoint or a Confluence throughout the organization. And again, the onus is upon the agent to figure that out and get to the right data on their own, consuming time and consuming energy. The other thing that comes into play is really the maturity of your contact center. And while it's presented in sort of a linear flow, you know, not everyone's going to go through each step. There are some relatively uncomplicated or not complex contact centers that only may have two channels. Traditionally, those would be voice and email. So as we go up the chain, then we're introducing the digital channels, right? Maybe chat, You may branch into social. SMS may be a channel as well. So you're expanding the options for your customers from a digital standpoint. If we look at the advanced, it's really about orchestrating the movement between all these different channels, and that it's a seamless transition as customers traverse from one to the other. Automation starts to come in, and we'll talk more about automation as the day goes by. That's a really big opportunity to improve operations and to improve the experience for both your employees and customers. Then we look at the far end on the right? This is where all of your channels are integrated together. There's advanced analytics and dashboards over top. We have AI woven in there to drive insights and provide efficiency and productivity gains for agents. And it's really just operating at a high efficiency level. And finally, it becomes a strategic asset. Right? It's no longer looked at as just a cost center. We have that strategic asset and really drives that customer experience and customer satisfaction, thereby impacting positively your business growth. Now, what if we could change that? What if we could address those challenges and make it better for all players involved, whether it's the customer, the employee, or your people in operations and supervisors, right? If we can address those problems, customers will get that consistent service across all channels they're looking for, ensuring that it's contextualized, effective, in the moment, right? Agents will leverage things like AI and automation so they're more productive and don't spend time on those low-value, repetitive tasks. Supervisors have the tools that they need at their fingertips to get key metrics and key insights to improve performance in the contact center. And finally, that means that the contact center operations themselves can be more efficient and cost effective. Here's sort of the nirvana, right? So if we compare this with the spaghetti mess that we looked at a couple slides ago that really results from legacy, building up those channels, et cetera, in the contact center, this is a single platform. So from a single platform, we can offer all the channels, whether it's voice, whether it's digital, or even if you're leveraging teams within your organization to communicate with customers or act as experts, et cetera, for your agents, that's also a native channel that we offer. Next, it's about the intelligent assistants, and it's important to offer this across all channels. So whether it's a chatbot on digital properties like your web or in the mobile, et cetera, or whether it's an intelligent IVR, right? A conversational IVR for voice. Another way to look at that is a voice bot. We provide the tools to offer that really personalized and contextualized digital experience self-service. Then it's important to make sure that these interactions, when they have to escalate to a human being or an agent, get to the right agent with the right skills at the right time. And leverage AI where it makes sense. If you can detect, for example, if someone is upset, you can leverage that to make sure it gets to an agent who might be more senior and able to handle a customer who's a little bit disgruntled and turn that around. The agents themselves have access to the copilots or generative AI within the system to help automate tasks, get easier access to knowledge, everything that really helps them become more productive. And as I mentioned before, spend more time on the customer and less time on the systems. Finally, in operations and knowledge, we have, integrated data. We don't have the challenge where we have to stitch together all of these channels. Because they're all in the same platform, it's very easy to report, and there are a lot of out-of-the-box intelligent dashboards to give them insights that are actionable. Now, when we look at our contact center, we really bucket it into three things. The first is around self-service, again, over digital or voice. Then we look at the experience from an agent's perspective when they're assisting customers directly. And then finally, from that supervisor perspective, when they're looking to drive efficiency and reduce costs. Let's dive into a little bit deeper into each of these functional areas. So first, we'll talk about delivering effortless self-service. And really, there are two channels that we're concerned about, and offering generative AI-based bots or voice bots, otherwise known clearly as IVRs. So these chat bots are about improving containment and reducing that call volume. And because we have generative AI, they are context aware. They know about the data that is underneath that customer, open cases they may have, open leads, open opportunities. The generative AI has access to all of this, and that's what helps it deliver this contextual personalized experience. It's very easy to connect these chatbots to multiple knowledge sources. Like I said, whether it's a SharePoint or a OneDrive, public websites, the knowledge directly within the contact center application, or files. And the list of things that we can easily connect to is just growing. And it's extremely easy to bring it all into one place so that agents can access it all in one place. With digital self-service, it's about presenting an intelligent bot to your customers, whether it's through a website or SMS or embedded within a mobile app. These bots leverage generative AI to access multiple different content sources or knowledge sources. So we make it very easy to connect things like SharePoints, like OneDrives, public websites, the existing knowledge base within the contact center, or even discrete documents. And this list of knowledge sources will make it easy to connect to, will only grow. For example, we're looking at a connector into Confluence because that's a very common knowledge repository out there in the contact center world. We go beyond just scripted experiences. So while there's still rules-based ways to create topics and guide customers through a prescriptive experience, generative AI can take over to make sure that if there isn't a match to one of these rule-based experiences, it can understand the information of the customer, like cases, like all of their contact information, their history, leads, opportunities, etc., to make sure it is best equipped to handle the customer's needs in the moment. It's also easy to connect to these different outlets, whether it's the web channel or the mobile channel or the SMS channel, etc. And of course, there is reporting around that to understand how effective the copilot is from a digital chat perspective. Now let's look at the voice IVR. So we want to be able to self-serve over the voice channel as well. And leveraging conversational IVR is an excellent way to do it. So you may recall that 2 years ago, Microsoft made a significant investment in a company called Nuance, which is a leader in the conversational IVR space. So that engine is still there, but we're exposing that within the Dynamics contact center, particularly from an authoring standpoint. Now, this is critical to give a much better experience to customers because we all know what the traditional typical experience is when we call into a bank, for example. So if I'm a customer, call into the bank, hello, you've reached X bank. Press 1 for sales, press 2 for service, etc., etc. We're all familiar with this, and most of us just go to hitting 0, trying to get through to an agent. That's not a great experience. And very often that's where the repeating yourself comes in, and it's just not fantastic. So instead of that pressing the 0 to get to an agent, now this conversational IVR leveraging generative AI can really have a conversation. So it will know if I have an open case, for example. So instead of me having to press 2 and go through, the conversational IVR can simply say, hi, David, we see you have a case open. Is that what you're calling about? Or if I say, I want to reset my password, sure, I can help you with that, and on and on. It's just a very different and a much more natural experience, leading to higher customer sat scores. Now let's look at the agent-assisted service, where a customer has to be escalated to an agent because whatever their issue or requirement is can't be met in a self-service perspective, which, as we saw today, about 50% of self-serve interactions are escalated to agents. So that's going to happen quite a bit still, and we need to make sure that agents are equipped to deal with that. We talked briefly about the routing, but I want to come back to this a little bit because it is critically important from a number of different perspectives to make sure that an incoming interaction, regardless of channel, gets to the right agent with the right skills at the right time. So as you would expect, the traditional things like the agent has to be available and assigned to those channels and things like that, those are true. Still, and that's commonly true. From a routing engine perspective, however, We combine leading AI with rules-based decisioning. And we can use things like sentiment analysis. I mentioned earlier about that angry customer coming in. Well, we can actually detect that sentiment and use that in terms of routing, like I said, to a more experienced agent, for example. We can measure intent. We can look at what skills might be required based on the text or the voice transcript or what have you, and combine that with rules-based routing, things like are they platinum, are they gold, are they silver levels? That may have an impact too, and that's just basic rules-based routing. And now Copilot. So we have a number of copilots, and you've probably heard a lot about copilots in general, but we have some specific Copilot capabilities designed to help the call center or service agent. And really, it's about helping them to become more productive and have less reliance on flipping between systems and focusing more on the problem at hand. And you can see things here like having a conversation summary. So if a person's chatting in or even calling in, I don't have to ask as an agent what it is that the customer is interested in doing. This conversation summary can get me up to speed very quickly, whereas I might have had to read for 30, 60, 90 seconds. And in a contact center, these seconds are incredibly important and can be incredibly costly. So wherever we can take those out, right, average handle time will go down. Agents will have more time to handle more inquiries from customers, and they're just more productive in general. This is where agents can ask a question of those consolidated knowledge sources that we talked about. They can get help drafting emails with that contextualized and personalized information about the customer calling in. Just a lot of different ways to improve the productivity. And you'll see later on when Callum gives a demo how these come into play in the flow of work. Knowledge management is going to be impacted, I think, fundamentally by the introduction of generative AI. It makes it a lot easier to consume, as we talked about, bring it all into one place, or rather connect to these different systems. You don't need to bring it into one place. We can ground on the data where it lies. So it's much easier to access, and it's going to be much easier to suggest new articles. So you'll see again how we can have knowledge articles automatically recommended after a case is created, for example, and that gets sent into this cycle. And really, I think we'll see this cycle become compressed, where we can get much higher quality knowledge in a much shorter time frame. So there are a couple of ways we can deploy our contact center. We knew how important it was to be easily embedded within existing CRMs or agent desktops like Salesforce or ServiceNow. You're looking at a Salesforce screen now, and you can see the Copilot pane in the bottom left exposed. Now, this is where you're going to be receiving the calls, making the calls, receiving chats, asking those Copilot questions, etc. But it is context aware of Salesforce. So you can still do those things like case summaries, asking questions about the underlying CRM data of Copilot directly. So you get all of this functionality, and we've made it incredibly easy for you to embed it within your existing CRM agent desktop. So that was one way of deploying it within your CRM, whether it's Salesforce or ServiceNow. If that's not your situation, or you're just looking for a standalone, we offer a standalone contact center as well. So what you're looking at here is the standalone agent desktop. It was basically built on the same technology and leveraging a lot of the same capabilities as our Dynamics CRM. The only difference really is that there's no case management natively within here. With the exception of that, they're largely at parity. Let's look finally at the operational standpoint or point of view. So we talked about how having access to data all in one place with intelligent dashboards where you can get that actionable insight. We provide that. So we provide both real-time and historical dashboards. And the real time is about monitoring the operation of the contact center. So here's where you're going to see volumes of calls. What are your standard metrics like first call resolution, average handle time, abandon rates, etc. All of these metrics that are common across contact centers, regardless of your industry. right? So we provide these out of the box, and they can be modified with Power BI. So for those of you who may have Power BI as your enterprise standard BI tool, that's what these dashboards are built with, that's Power BI. So they can be extended, or you can create your own and easily embed them within the call center application. Here's also where you see things like sentiment. So the supervisor can see if there are upset people, and that could be a trigger for these supervisors to first monitor that conversation. They might whisper the agent to provide some coaching in the moment, or if necessary, they can join or barge right into that conversation. Again, it doesn't matter what channel it is, whether it's chat or voice, they still have these options all in one place. And then if we look at the historical trends, right? This is where we provide a few different dashboards. And again, you'll have a look at these quickly when Callum does his demo. But this is where you're going to start to see trends in your KPIs, whether it is around sentiment, whether it's around case volume, call volume, right? This is your way to look historically and to make decisions about increased staffing, more training, whatever the case may be. The insights are there for you, leveraging AI to let you take action. And now over to you, Callum. All right, thanks, Callum. That was amazing. Let's talk about how we deliver value. A great example of use cases for our contact center is ourselves. You can imagine just glancing at these numbers that we have quite a complex contact center or support center, one of the most complex on the planet. We have 45,000 agents, about 17 million cases a year, 47 languages, and all of these different business segments, and across multiple channels, right? Whether it's phone, chat, in product sometimes, if it's an Xbox, for example, traditional email, we have social channels we support people through, and Teams. A little bit about the metrics, volume. So billion minutes of voice, 11 million chats. I won't drain this, but you can see that we have a lot in terms of volume, in terms of agents, in terms of things that we support. And I think the message is we were in a similar state as that spaghetti slide that I showed you at the very beginning. You can imagine as we evolved over time, made acquisitions, launched new lines of businesses and new products. We were no different. We would bring in different vendors to do this and different vendors to do that. And it really made it difficult. So all those problems we talked about up front, we were experiencing them and we were living them. We decided to leverage our own technology. So full transparency, we were at Genesys and we still use Genesys to a degree. We've started the journey to migrate to our contact center about 2 years ago, year and a half ago. So you can imagine for a contact center our side, the move to replace any CCaaS is not something that happens overnight. So we're using a blend of our own contact center as well as Genesys right now, but we're already seeing impact of our own contact center and having that Gen AI or Copilot embedded every step of the way. Now, it's one thing for me to make that anecdotally, but let's look at some real metrics that we have experienced and we've measured. On the left is the benefit that we got when we put our own CRM as the agent desktop that was common across all channels. So because it was a common desktop and we used a common routing engine for a lot of the incoming interactions, we saw that significant reduction in misroutes. And a lot of that is because, the increase in first call resolution is because we didn't have those. They didn't have to be transferred and things like that. And we also had a common view of our customers because we had our dynamic CRM up front instead of these disparate different agent desktops for each channel. Now, the really interesting thing is on the right, the impact from deploying Copilot. Now, we took some time to deploy Copilot. So we started in March of 2024, and we completed for 45,000 agents by August of 2024. So it took a little while, but not that long if you consider traditional rollouts of technology in a contact center. And here are the metrics that we saw being impacted. We saw roughly, up to a 16% reduction in average handle time over chat. So because you have easy access to all this information, right, all this knowledge and content in one place, they don't have to go to different places to get it. It's right there. So that helped reduce the average handle time, like we talked about earlier. Because we reduced the handle time, that means they have more capacity. So they were able to handle up to 12% more cases and chats by our support agents. And finally, and this is interesting because contact centers spend a lot of time, effort, and money educating their agents, training them up. It's not uncommon for 6 to 8 weeks to be a reasonable time frame. And even when they get out, their legs are a little bit wobbly. They're used to looking over their desk at their neighbor and asking for help, or maybe reaching out to an expert group over Teams, which is still an option. But by leveraging Copilot, they didn't have to do that nearly as much. We saw that reduced by about 13%. And what that means is that the people they're asking are also freed up. So we saw some real tangible benefits by deploying Copilot for our agents. Another win that we've had very recently is 1-800-Flowers. It was a big compete against Genesys, reasonable volume in terms of agents, and they're looking at deploying voice chat and email. As you can imagine, it was a tough fight, but ultimately their CIO, Arnie Leap, felt that our approach, being an all-in-one solution, was going to be the tool to drive his strategic outcomes in the contact center. So we're really seeing a lot of momentum in the market, and we're picking up some large, significant customers. Let's talk about the Microsoft advantage. So why us? Why are we different from the other CCaaS providers out there in the market? There are three sort of broad pillars. We do have a comprehensive vision for service. So there is no other vendor in the world that can offer a complete CCaaS, CRM connected solution all on the same platform. There just isn't. And they certainly aren't infused with generative AI in the form of copilots from end to end. We're going to meet you where you are and allow you to grow. The middle is about that infusion of Copilot. So whether we're talking about Copilot in self-serve for that contextual personalized service on their own, avoiding those costly escalations to agents, or when they do have to escalate to an agent, all the Copilot available there to the agent to help them be more productive and get easier access to knowledge. Or from an operations standpoint, how AI is offering up proactive insights that supervisors can take action on. And of course, our solution is built on Azure, one of the largest public cloud infrastructures in the world, which was built from the ground up for scalability, reliability, and security. Your data is your data. The other differentiator is you're not just buying a contact center on an unfamiliar platform. If you look here, a lot of these icons represent things that you're already using every day. Another big differentiator is the fact that you're not getting an unknown platform with your contact center. Because it's built on Microsoft Azure, as I said, one of the largest public clouds in the world, you get security and compliance at every level. You also get access to industry-leading capabilities. So whether you're looking to do pro code dev in Microsoft Azure, you have access to these services. Copilots are available in each of the different applications, whether it's the contact center itself, whether it's within Power Platform, or you're extending the copilots with Copilot Studio, you have that option. Teams is natively integrated. You can transfer calls to Teams. You can confer with experts in Teams. You can bring people into the contact center application that don't even have a contact center license and consult with them over Teams. We talked about those pre-built connectors into Salesforce and ServiceNow to make it very easy and not complicated to embed our contact center within these CRMs. And then you have access to the Power Platform. So again, leading capabilities in the market, whether it's through Power Automate to provide that automation, which we briefly talked about being very important for streamlining things in the contact center, Power BI, or even Dataverse. These things all are foundational to the contact center, and you can leverage these familiar class-leading tools to extend and enhance the solution and meet needs that might be specific to you. The other is really around integration, native integration of tools that you use every day. Whether it's about native integration with your email, calendar, and tasks so that they show up seamlessly within the contact center. I talked about the collaboration in Teams that's natively integrated, the Power BI. You can use Excel for both manipulating data, exporting, importing. Again, if you have the right permissions, you don't want everyone just taking data out willy-nilly, but that's natively integrated. SharePoint can be natively integrated or is natively integrated. So very easy to store documents and organize them as part of a lead or an opportunity or a case. It's natively integrated. And finally, you can have Word templates defined for sending out correspondence or what have you. So all these tools that are already being used in your organization are part of the contact center platform. Let's very quickly talk about the roadmap. And I think this is important to call out places where we are currently rounding out our solution to make it a little more compelling. But these are the areas we're going to be focusing on from a roadmap perspective. IVR and chatbots, continue to improve them, continue to leverage more and more copilots within them. The copilot within customer service, so how can we make it even easier for agents to leverage copilot? How can we move to the next step in generative AI where it's moving from just querying a large body of knowledge to actually taking action and giving proactive guidance around prompts that are contextual on the interaction happening in the moment. Voice, we will continue to develop out. We will make it more scalable and more reliant for you to use. Messaging, right? So we're going to work on that. Routing will keep going. We want to make sure that we modernize the experience. So as new paradigms in the market or in the industry arise, we want to make sure that we're leveraging that from whether it's a self-service experience, agent experience, or supervisor experience. And the last one I want to call out is because workforce engagement management is probably the one place where we really needed to invest to make sure we were meeting the needs of the market. So you're going to see this come out first in the next 2 to 3 months, probably before 2025, because we recognize how important this is. And so we want to get it right and make sure that you have the tools necessary to manage your workforce. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. The capability of the platform to improve our customers' experience and agents' productivity are exciting. Hi, everyone. I am Callum Marshall, a pre-sale solution architect here at HSO. I have worked with Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement, or CRM, for 17 years, many of those working with financial services clients. Today, I'm going to show you what a brief customer journey looks like with Dynamics 365 Contact Center. Karina is our customer, and she would like a credit limit increase. In the first step, she uses 2 of the self-serve options of the platform, specifically the customer service portal and self-service chat, to address her request. In the second step, we meet our customer service agent, Healy. She will review the customer's data, communications, and history to gain a 360-degree view of the customer and understand her intent. Healy will then use the contact center's productivity-enhancing capabilities, such as Copilot and Office integration, to solve for customers' needs while delivering a great service experience. As the journey completes, we will look at the supervisor experience from Brian's perspective to see how he supports his agents and can improve call center operations with AI-generated insights. On this screen, we can see Karina is logged into the self-service customer portal. She has explored the website and has reviewed knowledge articles in the portal. She doesn't find what she is looking for, and so she seeks support via the chat channel. The chat is based on Copilot and uses natural language processing to understand Karina's ask. Generative AI responds with information Copilot has consumed from our organization's trusted knowledge sources, websites, and connected business applications. Here we see she has asked about a credit limit increase, and the chat has presented the information contained in the relevant knowledge article. All of the data Copilot uses is secure and stays in your Copilot domain. Karina wants to speak to an agent. She could call in with voice using a frictionless IVR, but since she is in the portal, the chat is convenient and she will use it by asking for an agent. Let's switch our perspective to our agent Harley and see what the agent workspace experience is like for an agent. The agent workspace accelerates agent-assisted service by providing a unified experience via a flexible and scalable browser-based app that can be used anywhere the agent is located. As customers connect, regardless of channel, the AI-powered unified routing engine considers agent capacity and capability, as well as other factors, including sentiment, to ensure customers connect with the right agent at the right time. As Harley works in the agent workspace, she can see her active cases in the customer service agent dashboard. She can open her inbox to display all of her assigned cases, conversations, and activities in one control panel. Looking at this case, she can see a Copilot generated summary to help her quickly get up to speed on the case, increasing her efficiency and decreasing the time required to resolve the case. The incoming notification on the top right tells us a chat is coming in. Let's accept Karina's chat request and we'll see a chat session appear. Agents can work on multiple sessions at once. Each session will appear as a separate tab across the top of the agent desktop. In the communication panel on the left, we can see the in-progress conversation, how long it has been active, and the customer's real-time sentiment. Karina has been patient, but she has been waiting a long time. The sentiment is positive now, but it will change if Karina expresses negativity. Here we can see the sentiment has become negative, and there is also an alert on the tab to inform the agent that they need to focus on this customer. But Karina's actually pretty chill. So we'll keep our sentiment positive. The communication panel is similar for a voice call. The voice to text transcription is handled with an advanced AI-based transcription engine optimized for short command and control phrases. The platform also provides gatekeeper biometrics for identification and authentication. If the agent just joined this conversation or a manager, Copilot can provide a summary to get them up to speed quickly. They can also use templated quick messages with keyboard shortcuts. They can also consult other agents, managers, or transfer the call. While Harley is communicating with Karina, she will look at the customer information available to her in the conversation details section. The system has identified Karina since she is logged into the portal and has associated this conversation to her contact record. The elements on this form, like almost every other element on the platform, are fully configurable. In this conversation panel, we see a holistic 360-degree view of Karina's data to help our agent understand our customer and our context. We see her customer profile data in the left-hand column, as well as any details relevant to the conversation, including a pre-chat survey. In the center column, we can see historical and transactional information, such as active or previous cases, and we can add a new case. On the right is the timeline, which provides a Copilot summary, as well as a history of all interactions of all types from all channels. Let's take a look at the platform capabilities available to assist our agent in addressing Karina's request to get more information about a credit limit increase. Looking at the Smart Assist pane on the right, the platform suggests knowledge articles and similar cases that may be relevant to this issue. Harley can engage with team members, groups, experts, or supervisors using Teams chats directly in the workspace to enhance her ability to support the customer while reducing swivel chair activity. She can ask Copilot to help. Copilot will access the knowledge base using generative AI and provide a response. She can then provide this information to her customer to meet Karina's ask. Here we have added it and sent it in the chat with a click of one button. There are also agent scripts to guide agents during their conversations. If our agent Harley is not able to solve her customer's issue quickly, she can create a case and follow up with email. Copilot will suggest topics and create a draft. It can adjust the length and tone, and it can translate it to other languages, including French, with class-leading translation capabilities. And here we add it and send it again with the click of one button. So far, we have seen the experience from our customer and our agent's perspective. Let's now take a look at what it's like for Brian, our call center supervisor and leader. For supervisors like Brian, teamwork and manager support capabilities are built in, along with operational insights. The omni-channel ongoing conversations dashboard provides visibility into ongoing conversation sessions. From here, Brian can assign or transfer conversations. He can monitor them and barge in if needed, and he can force close them if it's required. After the voice conversation, Brian can review them with agents for coaching purposes. The recording transcribes the conversation and shows customer sentiment throughout. The conversation can be played back or downloaded. And in addition to basic call information and chat information, he can see specific metrics about that conversation. Finally, Brian, along with the call center leader, can gain operational insights by reviewing embedded Power BI dashboards. He can visualize key metrics, detect emerging trends, and make data-driven decisions with real-time data and historical reporting. The Customer Service Historical Analytics dashboard provides AI-driven insights and displays key KPIs and data in real time. At a glance, I can see the volume of my contact center, my average resolution time, and my CSAT scores if surveys are set up. These dashboards are pre-built Power BI reports that are easy to adjust or create if you have Power BI capabilities in your organization. The Forecast Insights dashboard shows case volume and helps me forecast and plan for workforce management. So now we have seen the experience from our three personas. We saw Karina taking advantage of effortless self-service. We saw how agent-assisted service accelerates Harley's ability to meet the needs of her customers. And finally, we saw how Brian can drive efficiency and reduce costs with AI-generated insights.